iRacing versus real life. How close are they? We're about to find out. I recently raced at Circuit of the Americas in the Mercedes-AMG GT3 and thought it'd be a great opportunity to boot it up in iRacing since they have the car on track and see how close they actually drive to one another in iRacing versus real life. So it's exactly what we're gonna do. I'm gonna throw them up on the screen. Here they are, split screen. Let's see how it is.
Those two laps were separated by 0.5 of a second. Of course, they looked very close on track. There were some areas where one car would go ahead of the other, but overall, very, very similar. I had to set the car up in a way where I tuned it to feel more like the real car. Is it an optimal fast setup for the simulator? No, there is definitely room for improvement, but I also didn't spend that much time tweaking the setup. But really, when it comes down to it, I'm looking more for how it's feeling. I want to simulate reality. I want the car to feel as close to real life as possible. So I break that down into 3 different aspects. The first one is braking. How good does it feel on the brakes? How close is it in terms of realism and the actual inputs I use in the real car? The second thing I look at would be how the car performs in the middle of the corner. When I'm off the brake or off the throttle, how does it feel? How does the car move? How does the road texture feel? Just how does it feel? That's what I'm looking at. And the final part is on throttle. What's the on throttle behavior of the car in sim versus real life? I think if we can talk about those 3 elements, then we can really get a better idea of how good it actually is. Braking is probably where iRacing excels over every other simulator platform on the market currently, and that's why I prefer to play iRacing as my sim of choice. It just replicates the braking, in my opinion, as close to reality as possible. The technique of how much pressure, how you attack the brake, the release technique, that's probably the most important part of how I would rate or judge braking in a simulator. How much pressure do you have to use? Are you pushing the brake and holding it to 100% and just turning it at 100%, then trailing off the brake really quickly? Or are you actually braking, releasing the brake and modulating on the threshold of grip or the level of adhesion that's available for you in deceleration, and really managing as you start to input the steering wheel forcing you to trail off the brake. That's what you get from iRacing, and that's what you get in real life. You'll see that when I'm driving the real car, I'm braking quite hard in the beginning, but immediately you'll see that I'm bleeding off the pressure. I trail the brake off. As soon as I have the loss of downforce, the aerodynamic forces come off the car, I'm trailing off the brake. As soon as I turn the wheel in, I'm actually trailing off the brake more because there's weight distribution involved. Now the inside wheel's losing contact patch, so that rubber from the inside wheel is not touching the ground. Therefore, I cannot brake super hard and at 100% of my capacity down to the apex. There is some level of finesse, and I find that in iRacing, you get that level of finesse. You have to modulate the brake really, really carefully to get the correct amount of rotation and not overwork the front tire where you start under rotating the inside wheel and going into ABS, or just understeering on the entry or pushing through the middle and entry of the corner. So all in all, I'm definitely, if I'm going to score this out of 10, I'm going to give the braking model like an 8.5. 8.5 out of 10 for iRacing. I mean, there's nothing else I'm comparing it to. So let's say if I was to compare it to ACC, I know this is controversial, which I will make a video comparing ACC and iRacing in the future. ACC braking for me is like a 1. And iRacing is, okay, no, 2. I'll give it a 2, okay? Don't hurt me in the comments. And iRacing is like 8.5. If 10 out of 10 is reality. So really, really well done to iRacing for braking. I feel like really at home when I'm on the brake pedal in iRacing. Let's talk about how the car feels in the middle of the corner. I think that's really coming down to the way the tires feel. I mean, there's definitely room for improvement here. I feel like you have to be really, really precise, and you can't hustle the car as much as you can in real life. When you look at my onboard footage, you can really see me working the car a lot in the middle of the corner. I'm just, fighting the car, and it's dancing. It's right on the edge of adhesion all the time, and you're kind of like over and under that limit and just dancing there. I find that in iRacing, you have to drive under the limit as if you're driving on a rail. So you can't really slide the car, but it is better than the other way around, where if you're just way too aggressive, absolutely full sending it with zero technique whatsoever. I prefer to be under the limit because it just helps me when I go into real life be a lot more precise. But can it be better in the middle of the corner? Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's just a lack of feeling, I want to say feeling, where you can't really go over that limit without making a catastrophic mistake where you're spinning out or sliding so bad where you overheat the tires and there's literally no return, and it takes about like 10 to 15 seconds before your tires cool off, which is another point for another video that we can talk about. But just being able to hustle the car mid-corner, I feel like it's not quite there in iRacing. You have to be a lot more precise with your hands. There's less working the wheel mid-corner, more precision steering. And I feel like that's an area where it can improve, where you can actually attack the corner more and just hustle the car into the corner and through the middle a little bit more. If I would have to rate how it feels in the middle of the corner out of 10 compared to real life being 10 out of 10, I would say it's probably like a 6 or so, because like I said, you can't hustle the car. You have to really drive it under the limit. And I just feel like when I'm in real life, I'm attacking a lot more than when I'm driving on iRacing. So yeah, 6 out of 10 in terms of how it feels mid-corner and just how the car feels. And I think that's really down to how the tires feel. Lastly, how does the car feel on throttle? This is probably the area where it can be improved the most. I just feel so disconnected from when I put my foot on throttle. The rear of the car is so snappy, it feels like I'm gonna spin out. And if you look at the examples from the real life car versus the iRacing lap, you'll see that I'm working the steering wheel a lot more on iRacing on the exit of the corner versus in real life. So I just I felt a disconnected. I just felt disconnected. That's the only way to explain it. I felt like the rear tires, when I went on throttle, were not actually pressing into the ground. And it almost felt like I had a very, very small contact patch where the car is just like dancing too much, if that makes sense. It just doesn't feel secure. It feels like it's driving on a cloud, which I often refer to that reference with some other cars on iRacing. But, you know, the higher the downforce, the better the car feels. That leads me to believe that the tires aren't fully working in the surface of the road as they should. Doesn't take away the fact that the braking model is still the best out of every simulator on the market currently, but there's room for improvement in how the tire feels and interacts with the surface of the road. And I just felt like very disconnected. Of course, that's right now at the time of recording. I've heard there are some major tire updates coming for iRacing that will actually touch on contact patch. There's been some leaked photos of the technology that they're working on and the work that they're putting in. So I anticipate that it will improve in the future, but currently as it is, I'm gonna give the throttle application phase of the corner like a 3 out of 10 in terms of how it relates to real life being 10 out of 10. So just not great, not a great experience. The higher the horsepower, the harder it is to feel the rear tires squishing into the ground. And yeah, that's just, of course, my opinion. Those are my personal feelings driving the real car and driving the same car in iRacing. I hope you guys liked that video. I enjoyed it a lot. Driving in the sim after racing or driving at the track in real life is always interesting. If you made it to this point, go ahead and smash that sub button down. Mean a lot. We're growing the channel so much. It's actually incredible to see the growth and how many new people we're meeting. I've met so many people when I was at Circuit of the Americas. A lot of people coming up to me on the grid walk and just sharing their feelings and their thoughts on the YouTube channel and saying how much it's helped them. So it really means a lot. And honestly, I love helping you guys, sharing my knowledge with you. It's awesome, and to see it actually pay off. Let me know if anything I've done on this YouTube channel or what video you guys have liked the most, because I'll take that topic and I'll try to elaborate on whatever video was best for you guys, and maybe we can help you out a little bit more, and it just helps stimulate the ideas. So like I said, sub to the channel, like the video if you liked it, and in the comments, everyone that's made it to this point, you guys are you're the real ones. Okay, I want you to write Morad go vroom. Write that in the comments. This way I know if you're actually here till the end of the video and if you're a true friend. Okay, that's how we'll know. All right, I'll see you guys at a racetrack or in the next YouTube video. See you guys.